Hey guys. I'm really not used to starting videos like this. I wanted to do a video talking about my favorite albums of this year because it's been a good year for music. It's been an overwhelming year for music, I will say. Like, there's been so much to keep up with, and I really wanted to make sure like I was giving everything a fair shot. Not saying I listened to every album. I have a list of 10 albums that I'm pretty confident in the order of. I'm sure it'll change over time, but first I'm gonna do some honorable mentions. So first up, Charm by Clairo. I'm actually surprised this didn't break the top 10 for me, but there were just albums I liked better than it. I love everything about the world of this album, where it's kind of like 70s inspired. I think it's Clairo really finding her lane, because I've liked her music in the past. I just haven't fallen in love with an album of Clairo's like this. CHROMAKOPIA by Tyler, the Creator. I have not come back to this one as much as I thought I would. I think it's because it sounds a lot like a lot of his past stuff. Nothing can top Igor for me personally, but there is a darker, grittier sound to this one that I really like, that I think just stays consistent throughout the whole thing. And as always, all the surprise features are really fun. Deeper Well by Kacey Musgraves, which I think went completely underrated this year. No major Grammy nominations, like Eat My Poopy. I can't believe that. The songwriting on here is just as good as it is on Golden Hour. If anything, I would say this album is like Golden Hour, but a trip to the woods. Let's go to the woods. It's just a very cozy album, and I enjoyed the atmosphere of it. I feel the same about Hovvdy's self-titled album. While a bit overstuffed, I have come back to most of this album pretty consistently. This album to me feels like sitting out on the front porch with your best friends, just talking the night away. Someone has a guitar and it's not cringy. Their entire sound to me is so inviting. Hit Me Hard and Soft, Billie Eilish. You snuck in with this one this year. I was not initially a fan of this one at all. Like, I listened to it the first time and I did not really like it, but I would say a good 8 times out of 10 I am wrong about my first listen, and that was the case for this. I think what Billie and Phineas made together is their most cohesive work, and I have to applaud them for that. I like Phantogram's new album a lot. They worked with a lot of pop songwriters here, and I feel like it really paid off. They have all their intricate electronic production, but it's super catchy melodies, and I just really enjoy this album a lot. To me, this is what Katy Perry's new album should have sounded like, personally. All right, I think it's time we get into the list. Number 10, Moon Mirror by Not a Surf. There's kind of a melancholy surrounding this album that I really latched onto. It is a rock album at its core, but there is something about it that's very soothing to me, especially when it comes to tracks like New Propeller or Losing. A lot of these melodies and harmonies to me are super reminiscent of Tom Petty, or just that kind of acoustic driven music, but with their signature heavier sound. I also love how smooth the lead singer's voice is. I think it's Ira. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. Number 9, Brat by Charlie XCX. I have actually been a Charlie fan for quite a while now. The way she crafted this completely vague concept and watching it turn into this completely new thing is so interesting to me. The writing on this album is also way more introspective than I was expecting. I thought based off the singles that the album would kind of be this whole fake confidence character type thing, and that's not the case at all. The music is still super bombastic and in your face, obviously, but the writing, you gotta listen a little for it. Especially on tracks like Sympathy is a Knife and I Think About It All the Time. She gets quite personal on those, and I thought that was a nice surprise. Up next we have Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande. It's really weird that I'm referring to an Ariana Grande album as underrated, but after the multiple Grammy snubs and just lower performing songs, this album's underrated. I'm sorry. I honestly have not obsessed over production on an Ariana Grande album the way I have with this one. I have in a similar way with Sweetener and Positions, but the songwriting on this album is just so much stronger. I love the tracks with the 2000s pop influences, and as always, her vocal production and just stacked vocals are mind-blowing. Only God Was Above Us by Vampire Weekend. This is one of those albums I'm listening to and I'm like, I love music. I love music. Hey, I love music. The production on this album is so freaking strong. I love how they dig into like all this classical influence and they just make it absolutely nasty sounding. Like, it's just so gritty. This is their best album to me personally, and I don't know if that's controversial to say, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Number 6, Smile by Porter Robinson. I was already fully in with the singles. Like, you didn't have to play me anything else. Similarly to Brat, the music is very upbeat, very maximalist in your face, and the lyrics are super introspective and thought-provoking. But I just love how chronically online the writing on this album is. I think other people would find it cheesy. I personally get it. Like, I I understand. But I love how he tackles subjects like the weird relationship between his fans and him. I love songs like Easier to Love You, where they're kind of like conversations with his past self, which he's dabbled with before. But I don't know, everything just comes off super genuine here. I've not really heard an album like this before. Number 5, Collapseless by Novo Amor. I have heard no one talk about this album this year, and I almost missed out on it. But one quiet evening, a drive to Cookout, I went to Cookout. On a whim, I pressed play on this thing. I didn't expect to listen to the whole thing, and I drove around and streamed it start to finish, basically with my jaw open the whole time. Dude has a voice that conjures up any amount of nostalgia, melancholy, like whatever you want. And I'm just blown away by the instrumentation on this album, especially on tracks like Years On. The writing is so poetic. Honestly, I don't really understand what he's talking about half the time, but that's what genius is for. But yeah, if you just love the escapism of music in general, this one will do it for you. Number 4, Rufus by Yacht Club. Rufus, I just know. Not to be confused with that. I have become a huge fan of Yacht Club over the past year, and I got to see him in concert back in May. I love his unique sound that's almost like 80s fever dream mixed with surf rock, and his vocal effects. Like, that's become a signature thing. This album to me is his strongest from a songwriting perspective. He's stepped up his game production-wise. There's new sounds on here that I've not heard from him, while also mixing in some stuff from like his older EPs that I love. Nary a bad song on this album. It always keeps me on my toes, and the replay value is also insane. Number 3, Imaginal Disc by Magdalena Bay. This has become one of those albums that the album reviewer circles, they're all like worshiping at the feet of, and rightfully so. It's just very hard to find my own opinion in the midst of, or like this album like changed music and like I've never been the same. Luckily, I already knew about Magdalena Bay like years prior and already fell in love with them. I was completely blown away by the world building, character building of Matt and Micah, who by the way, self-produced all of this. Insane. And this one is just a step up from the first album in basically every way. I will always have a soft spot for the first album, but this one is just so much stronger from a musical perspective. This is one that's going to take a while to digest. Like, I am still kind of trying to process the music that I've heard from this album. Number 2, Access All Areas by Flo. Bring back girl groups and boy bands. Not that they left, but they're just not as prevalent as they used to be. But when you look back at all the music of the boy bands and girl groups of the early 2000s, like, it's just the best music. It's music that's always confident in what it is, and that has not changed for this album. This album's really throwing lots of doo-doo at the wall, but it's good doo-doo. It's a healthy doo-doo. That's wild. It is just banger after banger. I love their chemistry together. They have plenty of chill-giving vocal moments that aren't like overdone or anything. Insane as a debut album from them. And finally, at number 1, we have the also Grammy snubbed Clancy by 21 Pilots. With Ariana Grande, she at least got nominated in some categories. 21 Pilots got nothing, and that is infuriating. When you look at this album, it's just them at their strongest. I think Trench is still their best album, but with this one, it gets so close, like it's not even funny. Tyler Joseph showcases everything that he's good at on this album, plus Paul Meany of Mute Math producing most of this. Always going to be a good look. Mute Math is my favorite band. There's so many moving cuts on this album, like Oldie Station, The Craving, the entirety of Next Semester, which is one of my favorite songs of the year. The music is just so powerful here, and it was insanely better live. I saw them back in October. Is this the end of their storyline, though? That's the real question. I don't think so personally, but that being said, what a wonderful cherry on top, if so. And that's all I got. I don't think anyone watches outros anymore. I never do, so I'm gonna keep it short and sweet with y'all. Another album, Sabrina Carpenter, another album that was good that I guess I would consider an honorable mention. But anyways, oh, also Stream Checkpoint by me. I forgot to say that. All right, bye.